No outreach, no ads. 0 to 10 to 25 inbound clients per month in 90 days with educational content. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down the exact step by step process you can use to fulfill that, and you can actually use this to separate yourself from the market and create your own mini market with people coming to you with pre-sold intentions and ready to buy. And if you're someone who wants to hop on dozens of calls with unqualified leads, give you objections such as I need to think about it or this doesn't suit me, well, this video isn't for you. But however, if you want the opposite, then stick till the end to find out how. So what we'll cover in this video is number one, why posting educational content is beats running ads or doing cold outreach every single time, how you can identify and analyze outlier brands so you can replicate their winning formats and winning strategies, the exact step-by-step process to build an inbound ecosystem within the next 90 days so you can sign coaching clients like clockwork from the content you create, and lastly, the exact metrics you need to analyze to not only hit this goal but also sustain this goal. And before we get into it, if you don't have a coaching offer or you're still figuring out what to sell, this video isn't for you, unfortunately. However, if you are a make money online coach who's already posting educational content but you're not getting any calls, you're not getting any leads from it, or you want to stop outreach and ads and start implementing an acquisition source that will give you the most output from the time that you're putting in and that compounds, this video is exactly for you. So without further ado, let's just get right into it. And the first point is why educational content beats doing ads and outreach. And I could just ramble on about the list of points that I have, but before I do that, I would want to show you an example of how understanding this concept allowed one of the people we worked with, Jacqueline, book 7 calls in 24 hours for her coaching offer without sending a single cold DM or running ads. And ads and outreach only get attention, they don't build proper trust within your audience, which is why it has a low conversion rate. So people are coming in your ecosystem, they're getting to know about what you have to do, but they never actually end up buying from you because you don't have proper trust built with them, because of the fact that you don't have educational content in place. However, if you do have content in place, it does the selling before the sales conversation even begins, before the sales process even starts, and it just makes everything so much simpler. Prospects either jump on the call just to clear out logistics from you and go over the nitty-gritty stuff, or they're confident enough that the solution that you're preaching is for them, hence they just pay directly through the DMs without ever needing a sales call. That's the power of content if you do it correctly. Now, there are two types of advertising: direct response advertising and trust-based content. Direct response advertising is simply when you basically just showcase and directly tell about your offer, how you can help them, your solution, all of that stuff. It is profitable in the short term, but in the long run, if you're building your coaching business to also benefit in the long run, then this becomes less profitable over time. However, trust-based content is not only gives you a sustainable competitive edge, an advantage, but it also makes you more money over time. So it's not only beneficial in the short term, but also in the long run. And honestly, in 2026, it is difficult to stand out when your outreach copy and your ad creatives is so similar to everyone in the market. There's nothing different about you, which is why ads and outreach reset every single day. It's linear, you have to do more outreach and more ads every single day, and every day you don't do it, you have to pay the consequences of you not doing outreach on that day. However, when it comes to content compounds. So the video that you post today, it will only be beneficial for you today, but also 2 weeks, 3 months, 1 year, even more than that down the line. So the content that you're creating today is beneficial for you in the long run, and it compounds. So you don't, even if you skip a day of recording, your previous content still compounds for you. Now, you need to understand the elements that can't be copied in your content. It is the belief system that you have, your personality, and your perspective. If you add these in your content, that you would much more likely convert your audience from the content that you create, because now you're not only creating content, but you're actually creating content that is meant for a personal brand to create, which brings us to our second point, which is outlier brands. Now the question is, how do you actually stand out in the market and become irreplaceable in a saturated market. Now, before we get into it, you need to understand that saturation is actually a good thing, because number one, it shows you there's proof of concept. Like, people actually, there's demand for your product, there's demand for your solution. You just only need to supply that solution. So now, what you need to do is stop competing on offers, prices, and guarantees. It's a race to the bottom, and you'll never achieve the record months that you're meant to achieve, because you're just going to be competing on who can get the lowest price, until the person who can just go the lowest will win. So if you're competing on offers, if you're saying things that you can't guarantee, if you're lowering down your prices unnecessarily, and if you're making offers, if you're making promises that you can't keep, you need to stop doing that. Instead, you need to actually identify and use your unique mechanisms in your marketing angles. Now, you right now have something that makes you unique over everyone in the world. It can be anything. So you need to identify what that thing is, or multiple things, and then you need to use it in your marketing angles. For example, I'm 16 years old. I'm running this business while balancing school and sports. That's a situation not many people in the info market are in, and I can use that to my advantage. So identify your unique mechanisms, identify what makes you different, because I've said this before and I'll say it again. People can copy your offer, they can copy your guarantees, they can copy your prices, they can copy every single thing besides you. So once you start marketing in like a perspective of not only just preaching your offer, but just like what you stand for, you yourself, your offer will start to sell much more, and you'll also be able to sell your offer without lowering down your prices. In fact, you'll be able to sell your offer at a much higher rate than you were currently doing. So identify and you use your unique mechanisms in your marketing angles, because you also need to understand that information is becoming a commodity. In 2026, people can access information from anywhere. It's like accessing information is not something they can't do. However, your personality and experiences is something that your market can't copy. So do preach the information, but at the same time understand that if your content has no personality and no experience, like you talking from experience in it, then your content is actually doing you more damage than good. So you need to start sharing your belief and contrarian perspective, not just the information. Because imagine this: you're looking to buy and you come across two people. Number one, the person who's just sharing the value, nothing else, just flat out sharing the value. Or the second person who's sharing their beliefs and perspective on the value that they're providing, and also showcasing their personality to show you that they're human across the screen. You would much more buy from the second person, because you can relate to them. That's why you need to start like showcasing your belief, because people actually connect with someone who has a similar belief system with like them. Anything that is similar with the other person, people tend to connect towards that. So that's why you need to start preaching all of these things, because people buy into people, not information. And differentiation actually comes from giving your methodology a name, creating your own framework, and making people associate an idea with you. For example, when you think of SMA, what do you think of? Iman Ghazi. When you think of freelance brand scaling, what do you think of? Best Skills. When you think of high ticket sales, who do you think of? Shelby Sapp. They've come to a certain point where people associate a certain idea with them. And in giving your methodology a name, this is what Best Skills did to actually differentiate himself from the SMA market. Freelance brand scaling is just SMA. It's just a more niche form of SMA. Instead of just preaching SMMA, he gave SMMA a different name, which is freelance brand scaling. Hence, he started to attract a wider pool of audience towards his direction. Now, lastly, what you need to do is analyze what are current outliers in other niche personal brands, and then tailor it accordingly. Now, it's going to be stupid if you see something working well for another person, whether they're in your industry or not, and you don't execute on it. It's stupid, because you see there's proof of concept, like that thing works. So the only thing that you have to do is tailor it to your own offer, to your own personality, and just make the video on it. So that is why you need to start executing on outliers. And whatever is an outlier in an industry that you're looking at, you need to look at it and see how can I make this video better? How can I make it perform better? But it's going to be stupid if you just see that video and do not execute on that title, on that thumbnail, or anything of that sort. Start doing that. And this leads us to our third point, which is the educational content system. Now, how can you create educational videos that actually get you clients? Well, the number one thing is that you need to dial in the video structure. And this is so important because if people don't stick around to actually like watch your value, they wouldn't know what you're selling and they wouldn't be inclined towards purchasing your offer because they don't know what you do. They haven't consumed value from you, they haven't consumed your content enough to basically buy from you, which is why you need to have a high retention rate, have a high average view duration. Now, I scaled my AVG, which is average view duration, from 0.32 seconds to 2 minutes and 30 seconds, increase in just a matter of 3 videos, because I started to dial in and pay attention more to the video structure and implementing core winning elements that I found in other videos that are similar to mine and my idea, and start to implement on it, because every single video has a different structure, yes, but however the core winning elements are common, all of them. And the 3 structural lanes I have to talk to you about is top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel content. Now, all of these 3 types have different structures with it. Like, top of funnel is a more broad and it appeals to a wider audience, like wider dream following audience, while still overlapping with your niche. So it's not totally outside your niche. It's in your niche, but it's helpful for people in your niche, but it's just not that niche enough to hit your ICP. And now the video structure for this type of content will be totally different from middle of funnel and bottom of funnel content. And before I get into middle of funnel content, I just want to say is that if that you're only posting one of 3 types of these types, or one of even 2 of these types, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, because you will be able to unlock record months when the content you create is a mix of both top of funnel, middle of funnel, and bottom of funnel content. Now, it brings us to our next part, which is MOF. In this type of content, you need to just show, and your word doesn't hold that much value. It does, but you also need to show your audience like what you're talking about, and you actually know what you're talking about. For example, you need to showcase the breakdowns, the business insights, your unique mechanisms, your unique framework. Run your audience through all of these things and how they can implement it for themselves. Which brings us to our last structural lane, bottom of funnel content. This is more objection led, it's more narrow, and it's built for people who are close to buying, but they just need a gentle push. Now, this is where you handle the objections. This is where you answer the questions. This is where you basically take out every single limiting belief that your audience still has after being nurtured from their top of funnel and middle of funnel content. Take that out and you showcase the proof that it works. Now, what is the formula to actually have a good video structure? Well, the main core idea is that you just need to reverse engineer and replicate winning video structures. Now, an overall structure that does extremely well every single time, and these are the core elements that are in every single video structure, is number 1, for the intro, you need to have visual framing. Now, a lot of people overlook this part. Most of these things are overlooked, like I said. However, they do play a major role in your retention rate. Things like your opening frame, your video quality, your proof screenshots, background aesthetics, and your pattern interrupts. These aren't given much attention. However, these are the things that actually matter, and these are the things that will, even if your viewer wants to click off the video, they'll think for a second. They'll be like, do I really want to click off this video? Because it's so visually enticing. So dial this in, and this comes to our second point, which is verbal hook. Now, this depends purely on the type of video you're creating. Like I said, top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel, and even to the certain point of like, what idea do you have in mind? What is the video idea? Well, your hooks can be curiosity driven. They can have pre-framing in them. They can be anecdotal. They can be credibility driven. They can be pressing on a certain pain point, and then they can be drawing out your current situation. Like, right now you're in this, and you don't want to be in this situation anymore. These are all the different types of verbal hooks you can use, which depend on the type of video you're trying to create. For example, if it's a top of funnel video, you're going to be inclining towards more of the curiosity driven hook, because it just gets a lot of attention in. However, if it's like a middle of funnel video, then you'll be leaning towards the credibility hook, or pressing on a pain point, or drawing out current situation hook. Basically, just see what type of video you're posting and then choose your hook accordingly. And this brings us to our next point, which is the payoff. Now, if you don't deliver the value you promised the viewers you will deliver, your audience will immediately click off, and there is no reason for them to absolutely give you a second chance. Now, this is basically Pavlov's theory applied to content, which is that every underperforming video trains the algorithm and the audience to expect less from you. However, every video which you overdeliver and give more than usual, it'll expect your audience to expect more and actually come back to the next video that you post and the next video that you post. And the thing that you really need to do is you need to address the pain points, share a personal anecdote, showcase the proof, give both emotional and logical explanations. If you only give emotional explanations, it'll only attract the people who are emotional buyers. If you only give logical explanations, it's going to only attract the people that are logical buyers. However, if you give a mix of both, it's going to attract both of these markets, which is going to give you a higher market to tap into. And then you need to extract a takeaway. This is usually the structure of the payoff, because when you're going through multiple value points, this is a usual structure you need to actually abide by, because it is evoking emotions. It's like alleviating the pain. It's doing every single thing that the messaging and payoff part needs to do. Now, what are some elements that you need to have in your content to actually make the messaging stick? Number one is that you need to have storytelling. Now, you can't just provide your value flat out. It doesn't evoke any emotions. And if your content from the starting point to the end point doesn't evoke any emotions, no, your audience wouldn't book in a call with you. So that's why you need to have the storytelling, emotion, and then you need to have conversion drivers. Now, these are the things that matter, because, like I said, even if you're evoking emotions, you need to also create urgency to the point where people actually book in a call with you. That's why there are multiple subtle and direct conversion drivers that you need to have in your content. Then comes, you need to showcase your personality. Whatever your personality is, actually tap into that, because if you're just like providing the value without showcasing your personality, it looks like the person on the other side of the screen is AI, and you don't want to look AI-ish. So that's why you need to showcase your personality. You need to have retention tactics so the person can actually stay till the end, or stay in to the part where they can receive the call to action or receive a certain part of the video. And then you need to have indirect CTAs. Now, you need to have multiple CTAs throughout the video, but every single time you cannot just give a direct CTA. You need to have indirect CTAs in your video as well, so that the viewer doesn't get annoyed. When you have indirect CTAs, it's subtle and it just transfers you again to the value without having much of a pause. And the last part is content loops. Now, you need to have content loops, you need open loops, and if you open your loop well enough, people are going to be actually inclined towards watching your video, at least until that certain loop is closed. Now, then comes the part of the close off. Now, you shouldn't overcomplicate this part at all. You just need to make them visualize their dream state of what life could look like if they took that certain action, if they invested in your program, whatever. And then you need to bridge your offer as the getaway from the current situation that they're in and they're dissatisfied from. And then you need to give a call to action to people who are actually serious in investing in your program. These are the 3 steps. You can't overcomplicate this close off. And then comes the ideation process. Now, most people overcomplicate the ideation process, and a lot of times I come across people who say, I don't know what to post on. Well, your best and most convertible ideas come from mining your own past, where when you were in that exact situation your ICP is in, the exact moments, the exact thoughts, the exact objections you faced, the exact feeling you had and you couldn't get past by it. How did you feel every single day knowing that you have so much potential but you can't get to that point yet? So what all of these moments, all of these thoughts, the objections, everything, you need to come in that state and actually jot down how you were feeling, and then make the ideas narrow enough to almost feel uncomfortably specific, like exactly for your ICP. If anyone else besides your ICP comes across your video, they would know that it's not for them instantly. That's the point you have to come across. And what you need to do is you need to reverse engineer what makes someone actually choose you. Like I said, like your traits, story, personality. If you have all of these three things understood, like why people actually choose you over the other person, you can actually leverage these in your content. Then comes the next point where you need to diagnose what the business needs and then generate ideas to fill that specific hole. If you're struggling to get attention right now to your coaching offer, your job is not to create bottom of funnel content, it's to create top of funnel content. And if you're struggling to convert the attention that you already have from the content you're creating, you are not supposed to create top of funnel content. You're supposed to create middle of funnel and bottom of funnel content. So whatever your business is struggling with right now, whatever your business needs, you need to understand and identify that, and then create ideas based on what is lacking and what needs to be filled. Look at outlier ideas in your industry or outside your industry, and then just tailor it to your offer. The same thing that we did with outlier brands, you need to do with your outlier ideas. Now whatever is working, take it as a sign, take it as something that has proof of concept, and just tailor it to your own liking and tailor it to your own offer. For each idea, you need to understand these three things: the specific pain point you're trying to solve, the desired outcome you're trying to showcase your ICP, and the bridge between the two. Once you have these three things dialed in, your content will start to hit more, and you'll start to see your calendar actually filled and booked with pre-sold, pre-qualified leads. This brings us to our third point, which comes under the educational content system, which is asset creation. Now, making your own assets only gets you like one video at a time. You can't scale. It doesn't scale because you're capped by your own hours instead of your own ideas. Now, hiring a dedicated asset designer, this is something we help all of the people who work with us. We help place asset designers in their business for their content to build every Miro board and doc. Basically frees up multiple hours for a founder, which they used to spend building these visuals themselves, and they can actually put these hours into the highest leverage activities in their business. Because right now, if you're a 20k, 30k, 40k per month coach, creating Miro boards is not a high leverage activity for you. You can just easily outsource it to someone who knows how to do it. So instead, you need to outsource it so you can free up more of your time to actually get student results, be in your like students' chats, record more content, get more ideas, all of that stuff. Now, asset creation means it's simply someone else building the actual boards, docs, and visuals you explain on camera. So your only job is actually showing up and talking through what you've already built, which shouldn't be hard because you've gone through the things. You just have to express it out to the camera, and it helps you actually post more and stay consistent without burning out. So you can stick to your content schedule. You can pump up your content frequency without actually burning out. And this works because an asset designer isn't just like saving you time, like they're actively improving each and every video, and which leads to your retention and booking rate being increased. Like your videos are better structured, which increases the retention rate. More visually appealing videos keep the viewers watching longer and make the content itself feel more trustworthy. And this comes to our last point, which is metrics that matter. Now, most people just track views, and which is why they're broke. You need to track the qualification of the viewer instead. Are they a qualified follower? Are they unqualified follower? And each metric actually has its own different value. So you need to know the priority level of each metric. Like for like views, followers, people who know your name, and people who trust you, and people who convert. Each metric has a different value. Followers are much more important than viewers. People who trust you are much more important than people who know your name. So you need to know which metric to prioritize. And most people don't know this, but a good percentage of your audience, of your followers right now, they're silent buyers. Like they wouldn't engage with your content, but they'll end up buying. So you need to know which metrics are truly deserve your attention and which metrics don't, like which vanity metrics you need to stay away from. And if you're wondering, okay, like what metrics do I need to track for the maximum output? Well, these are few metrics you need to track. Number one is the first touch point content. Now, this just shows you exactly what type of content earns the viewer's trust first, so you know what to make more of in the top of funnel content. So, like in your onboarding form, ask your viewer what was the first video they came across, and they'll basically tell you that video, and then you can analyze that video and create more of that video for top of funnel content. And then the second point is last content touch point before booking. What was that video that pushed them to actually book in a call with you? And you can track this by UTMI tracking links or your onboarding form. It basically reveals, like I said, what content pushed the viewer to actually book in a call with you. Then comes video performance versus account average. Now, this gives you a repeatable structure to work on and abide by. Like a spike or a dip against your own baseline is much more meaningful than comparing your content and your numbers with anyone else's numbers and content. So instead, like actually take a look within your content, see where your retention rate is dropping, and actually work on that point. Then comes our next metric to track, which is clicks to call booked ratio. Now, this shows the conversion strength of your funnel. If your clicks to call booked ratio is low, then you know that your funnel is weak and you need to fix it. And it also exposes the weak points in your funnel. For example, if the click rate is high but the booking rate is low, the problem isn't the packaging of your content. It's basically the video structure, it's the content itself, and you need to work on that. So it exposes the weak points so that you can work on the weak points instead of changing something that works. Then comes AVG, average view duration, and this shows you the retention strength of your hook. How strong is your hook? It helps the people watch the video furthermore. So once, if the hook is weak, it'll show in your average view duration. If the hook is strong, it'll show in your AVG. Now it highlights exactly where people drop off, so you can fix the pacing or structure instead of just guessing. So you know what to fix instead of just guessing and fixing the wrong thing. And then comes the click through rate, which is the CTR. Now this shows the strength of your packaging, like the title and thumbnail shows the strength of that, and the industry average is 3% to 6%. So if it's anything below 3 to 6%, that you need to work on your packaging and like titles and thumbnails. And if it's something above that, then you're doing great, and you just have to work on whatever is working for you currently. And then if your packaging is weak, then that's the first thing you need to focus on, because that's the first thing a cold person will interact with when they come across your video. It's not your video structure, it's not your value, it's basically just the packaging, the title and thumbnail. Then comes our second last metric, which is return viewer rate. Now, this evaluates if the content you create is actually building trust and making the people go through the buying process. If people are not coming back to like your channel, the content that you're creating, then you need to focus on the trust aspect of your content, and it confirms that you're delivering on your promise consistently. If people, like I said, are not coming back, then maybe you need to stop saying things that you can't fulfill on. Then our last and final metric you need to track is recurring objections from sales calls. Now, take objections as marketing gaps, not sales gaps. That if people have the same objection at least 3 times, there should be a content asset that is educating them on that certain objection and handling that objection before the call. So when they hop on that call, they don't have that objection. Anyway, that is it for today's video. It's been a long one, but I ran through exactly how you can sign 10 to 25 inbound clients per month in 90 days with educational videos. Now, if you need help in implementing whatever I said in today's video, then you can click the link in the description below and we can hop on a one-on-one call. And if you like the content that you just saw, then subscribe, because I'm going to be coming out with more in-depth breakdowns on how you can actually book calls from the content that you create.